Hello and welcome to Top 10 of 2012, everything that defined the year that was. From global recession to 4 more years for Obama, the troubles in telecom, the changes at Bombay House, the government getting back its mojo, and the god of cricket calling it quits. Over the next 30 minutes, relive the highs and feel the lows on Top 10 of 2012. I'm Supriya Srinath and straight to our top story. Until August this year, India was struggling with crippled growth and a policy logjam, dented confidence and halted investments. The GAR scare and the retrospective tax blow only made matters worse. We were staring at a 1991-like crisis. It was around then P. Chidambaram came back to take charge of Finance Ministry. And since then, things have been shaping up.
The GAR ghost, the retrospective tax Dracula, and the policy paralysis. The first half of this fiscal eroded confidence, crippled growth, and halted investments.
We need to come out with clear policies. We have to clearly solve some of the pending issues on coal, on telecom. We have to move on.
It was exactly then a change of guard happened at North Block. And in came UPA's Mr. Reformer, Palaniappan Chidambaram. The government decided to defer GAR, dilute the draconian retro tax pain, and push the pedal on reforms like diesel price hike, FDI and retail, aviation, insurance and pension, the land acquisition bill, cabinet committee on investments, stake sale in PSUs, and finally the Congress endorsed its government's reform agenda. But can Chidambaram continue the virtuous cycle of reforms, and can India get back to a high growth trajectory?
Fortune, it is said, favors the brave. Chidambaram has taken risks. Those risks have paid off. The reason he was able to take the risks was that he spoke to Sonia Gandhi and said, look, there is this threat of a credit downgrade by rating agencies. He has got her backing. It has worked. The FDI and retail went through. The new banking laws went through. The insurance thing didn't go through, but some chance that it will. Now, if in a budget year you do a lot of goodies just being given away, that will be terrible for the fisc. It will shake foreign confidence. How can Chidambaram produce an election budget and yet tighten the fisc at the same time? Actually, he does have an answer. Or rather, he has two answers. He says, the first thing I'm going to do is Aadhaar. On the basis of Aadhaar, I am going to have cash transfers. The second thing, of course, is there is a Food Security Act. That Food Security Act will supply cheap rice, cheap wheat. So if he has got the Food Security Act and he has got Aadhaar, it is a reasonable platform on which to say, let's go for the election. And this will then generate a lot of optimism, the climate for investment will improve, and we can hope to see that growth is better.
It has been a tough year for global markets on all sides of the Atlantic. Slow economic growth and painful spending cuts are perhaps the new normal. But as the world gets ready for a prolonged period of slow, anemic growth, and as experts insist green shoots of recovery are beginning to be visible, we take a look at what really kept the world on tenterhooks. Tanveer Gill with more details.
Indeed, Supriya, 2012 was a tricky year for global markets, and the big risk came in from Europe. Will the euro survive? Will Greece continue to stay on in the European region? What will happen if the EU breaks up? All these questions plagued investors at the start of the year. But during the course of the year, given that aid was extended out to Greece and austerity measures were implemented in the region, the crisis was controlled in a manner. In fact, the dramatic moment came in with Draghi's statement that he'll do whatever it takes to save the EU. And the unlimited bond buying program that he announced later, sort of a QE really for Europe, helped bring about relief in global markets. France and Germany, in fact, have done very well year to date for the EU region. Italy and Spain have underperformed, but they are seen as opportunities for 2013. The big question that we're still grappling with is how the US government will manage the fiscal cliff issue. How will they bring about a balance between debt and deficit? We all know that there's a lot of debt on the balance sheet of the US government. And to avoid the risk of a default, they have to control their deficit, which is either by way of hiking taxes or by way of implementing spending cuts. Now, it still seems like a catch-22, but the markets have shrugged off the event so far. Year to date, the S&P 500 is up 12%. It seems like the market believes that the government will be able to find a solution and will not let the economy slip into recession in 2013.
2012 also marked the troubles in telecom, a year that India's telecom czars would want to forget forever. A year that saw 122 telecom licenses cancelled in one stroke. Uncertainty rang aloud. Finally, there were auctions that bombed, but after months, while the policy overhang is gone, it is safe to say here, so has the best in Indian telecom.
Former minister in jail. Top CEOs recently out on bail. A dozen cases still in court, and only 3 operators with profits to report. If you thought it couldn't get worse in 2012, it did. And one day made all the difference. 2nd February 2012, the Supreme Court quashed 122 telecom licenses issued by the government without an auction in January 2008. The top court mandated the government to auction 2G spectrum. The government decided to fix a reserve price of 14,000 crores for pan-India 2G spectrum. The auctions bombed. Less than 10,000 crores were raised, and there were no takers for bandwidth in 4 crucial circles.
I realized that the banks were not willing to lend. And quite frankly, if you want me to say so honestly, perhaps auctioning the spectrum is not the best model.
The government imposed a one-time fee and dialed the controversial refarming decision.
There are certain rules in the licenses which I think will make that this will go to court.
With the regulatory overhang gone, will 2013 be a turnaround year?
I would say we are almost at the verge of some big changes. I would say give it another 3 months. First quarter next year, I think we should see a lot of changes.
The worst may be over, but even Sunil Mittal knows that the best is also now history.
Troubles weren't ringing just aloud in telecom because coal sparked a massive fire as well. Fires whose flames left no one unscarred, from the mighty captains of India Inc. to the highest offices in government. The country's top auditor alleges a loss of 1,80,000 crores was caused by discretionary allocation instead of auction of coal blocks. Clearly, coal tainted everything that crossed its path.
On a March morning early 2012, India woke up to the possibility of a scam.
Biggest corruption scandal. Koila Ghotale mein FIR darj
worth a staggering 10 lakh crores. Coal underneath the earth had tainted everything up above. A draft note from the top auditor pegged windfall gains to private players because of opaque coal allocation. All hell broke loose.
कोयला काला है और देश के प्रधानमंत्री का हाथ काले कोयले के रंग में सना है.
CAG's final report lowered the figure eventually to 1,80,000 crores, alleging private companies were the big beneficiaries. The Prime Minister was in the dock.
हजारों जवाबों से अच्छी है मेरी खामोशी न जाने कितने सवालों की आबरू रश.
But the black coal exposed the unholy political corporate nexus with the high and mighty of India Inc. in the dock. Companies were accused of influencing politicians and policies for personal gains, selling power from cheap coal at steep rates, hoarding resources without initiating any mining activity. Corporates mounted a fierce defense.
Completely baseless. We have not got any coal cheap.
Finally, the CBI stepped in. The government was also forced to review and cancel blocks for insufficient mining, paving the way for the first ever auction of coal blocks in India.
He held the reins of India's largest business conglomerate, the $100 billion Tata Group, for 21 long years. Ratan Tata single-handedly made the 144-year-old group go global. There are many triumphs to his credit, and industry's titans all vouch for that.
The opportunity was there, he grabbed it,
and he taught all the companies to think big and most importantly to think beyond the shores of India.
Tata was always a good brand, but he has taken it to be the #1 brand of India.
Ratan has shouldered it beautifully in maintaining what I may call the Tata DNA, especially with respect to value systems and ethical values.
There's lots that Ratan Tata did deliver, but plenty remains undone, and Cyrus Mistry has a tough task on hand. Abhinav Badas looks at the road ahead at Bombay House.
Perhaps for Cyrus, the biggest challenge would be to replace Ratan Tata, who's over the years turned the Tata Group into a global powerhouse. Ratan Tata made the most of the liberalized era, but for Cyrus, the challenge would be to deal with the global slowdown. Chorus, the group's multi-billion-dollar acquisition, is bleeding, and the telecom business is facing its share of troubles. The power business for the group is also in complete disarray, with the Mundra UMPP turning unviable. But as a starting point, Cyrus would want to set things right for the Nano, Ratan Tata's dream project. And if he succeeds, that would be his biggest tribute to the outgoing chairman.